Welcome, dear listener, to a tale woven from the threads of time, a story whispered on the wind from ages past to our bustling present. Tonight, as the stars begin their slow dance across the velvet sky, I invite you to settle in, to let the worries of the day drift away like smoke on a gentle breeze. For I am here to tell you a story, a gentle lullaby, that might just help you find the deepest, most peaceful sleep you've ever known. Our journey begins not in the clamor of today, but in a time when the world moved at the pace of the sun and the moon, when the rhythm of life was dictated by the turning of the seasons and the gentle ebb and flow of nature as breath. Imagine, if you will, a world without the insistent hum of electricity, without the glowing screens that steal our nights, without the constant clamor of notifications demanding our attention. This was the world of our ancestors. Their days were filled with honest labor under the open sky, tilling the earth, hunting in the forests, gathering nature's bounty. Their hands were busy, their bodies tired in a satisfying way, and their minds were clear, unburdened by the endless stream of information that floods our modern lives. When dusk painted the horizon with hues of orange and purple, they gathered around crackling fires, sharing stories, laughter, and the simple warmth of human connection. There were no deadlines to meet, no emails to answer, no social media feeds to endlessly scroll. Their anxieties were primal: the changing weather, the availability of food, the safety of their kin. But these were concerns that fostered community and resilience, not the insidious, pervasive stress that gnaws at us today. Sleep, for them, was not a struggle, but a natural surrender. As the stars emerged, one by one, they would lie down on beds of straw or animal hides, their bodies weary from physical exertion, their minds quieted by the day's simplicity. The sounds that lulled them to slumber were the gentle chirping of crickets, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant hoot of an owl. Their dreams were, perhaps, of the hunt, of bountiful harvests, or of the loved ones beside them. They didn't need potions or pills to coax sleep. It came as naturally as breathing, a deep, restorative embrace that prepared them for another day in harmony with the world. But then the world began to spin faster. The quiet rhythm of nature was replaced by the relentless tick-tock of clocks, the insistent demands of a world that never truly sleeps. We built cities that glowed brighter than the moon, and invented machines that promised to save us time, yet somehow left us with less of it. The simple anxieties of survival were replaced by 1,000 new pressures: the pressure to succeed, to accumulate, to be constantly connected, constantly available. And then came the small, glowing rectangles that fit in our pockets, mobile phones. What began as a tool for connection quickly became a tether, binding us to a world of endless information, constant comparison, and an incessant stream of digital noise. We carry our work, our social lives, our entertainment, and our anxieties in our hands, checking, scrolling, liking, and responding, often long after the sun has set. The blue light from these screens tricks our brains into believing it's still daytime, disrupting the very biological rhythms that once guided our ancestors to peaceful slumber. Our minds, once quieted by the day's simple tasks, are now a whirlwind of thoughts: what we didn't do, what we need to do, what others are doing, what we're missing out on. The tension builds, a knot in our stomachs, a tightness in our chests. The quiet of the night, once a sanctuary, becomes a battleground where our racing thoughts fight against the desperate need for rest. We lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying conversations, planning for tomorrow, worrying about everything and nothing. Sleep, once a given, becomes an elusive prize, something to be chased, to be begged for. And so, in this age of relentless speed and pervasive digital light, sleep became a commodity, a luxury, something to be bought and consumed. When the natural pathways to rest were obstructed by the constant stimulation and the internal cacophony of our minds, we sought external solutions. The pharmaceutical industry, ever ready to meet a burgeoning need, offered a seemingly simple answer: a pill. A small, unassuming tablet promising to usher us into the land of dreams, to silence the restless mind, to grant the elusive peace that once came so effortlessly. But these pills, while offering a temporary reprieve, often came with their own set of shadows. They could induce a sleep that felt less like true rest and more like a forced unconsciousness. The dreams, if they came at all, might be hazy, indistinct, lacking the vivid tapestry of natural slumber. And with each morning, a new struggle might begin: grogginess, a lingering fog, a dependence that grew subtly, insidiously. The body, designed for natural rhythms, began to forget how to fall asleep on its own, relying instead on the chemical nudge. The very act of seeking rest became a source of anxiety, a nightly ritual fraught with the fear of failure if the pill didn't work, or the worry of dependence if it did. This reliance on sleeping pills is a poignant symptom of our modern malaise. It speaks to a profound disconnect from our innate biological wisdom, a desperate attempt to medicate away the consequences of a lifestyle that is fundamentally out of sync with our human nature. We are, in essence, trying to force a square peg into a round hole, attempting to impose artificial stillness on minds and bodies that are overstimulated and overwhelmed. The ancient ones, with their simple lives and their deep connection to the earth's rhythms, would have found this predicament utterly baffling. For them, sleep was not a problem to be solved, but a natural conclusion to a day well lived. But fear not, dear friend, for this story does not end in despair. Even in this age of blinding lights and buzzing screens, the ancient wisdom still whispers, if only we choose to listen. The path to true restorative sleep is not found in a bottle, but in a gentle return to the rhythms that once guided our ancestors. It is a journey of rediscovery, of reconnecting with the innate wisdom of our bodies and minds. It begins with small steps, perhaps dimming the lights as evening approaches, signaling to our bodies that the day is winding down. Perhaps putting away the glowing screens an hour or two before bed, allowing our minds to unwind from the digital onslaught. Perhaps a quiet walk under the stars, a warm cup of herbal tea, a few moments of gentle stretching, or simply sitting in silence, allowing the thoughts to settle like dust after a long day. Remember, your body remembers how to sleep. It yearns for the deep, peaceful rest that rejuvenates and restores. My promise to you, as your storyteller tonight, is not a magic cure, but a gentle reminder of what has always been within you. Let this story be a lullaby, a soft invitation to release the tensions of the day, to quiet the racing mind, and to surrender to the profound peace that awaits you. For when you find that natural rhythm, when you embrace the quiet wisdom of the night, you will discover a sleep so profound, so restorative, that it will feel like a forgotten dream finally come true. And perhaps, just perhaps, you will find the best sleep of your entire life, a sleep that needs no pills, only the gentle embrace of your own natural being. The pressures of our current existence are multifaceted, insidious, and often invisible. Beyond the glowing screens, there lies a tapestry of anxieties woven from the very fabric of our society. The relentless pursuit of productivity, the ever-present fear of falling behind, the constant comparison to curated online lives. These are the unseen chains that bind us, even when we are ostensibly at rest. The workplace, once a place of defined hours and clear boundaries, has bled into our personal lives, with emails arriving at all hours and the expectation of immediate responses. The globalized economy, while offering unprecedented opportunities, also brings with it a pervasive sense of instability, where job security can feel like a fleeting illusion and financial worries cast long shadows over our nights. Social media, initially hailed as a tool for connection, has morphed into a stage for performance, a relentless competition for validation. We scroll through endless feeds of curated perfection, comparing our messy realities to idealized versions of others' lives. This constant comparison fuels a sense of inadequacy, a gnawing feeling that we are not enough, not doing enough, not being enough. This mental churn, this internal dialogue of self-criticism and external pressure, is the antithesis of the calm required for sleep. Our brains, designed to process and respond to immediate threats, are now constantly on high alert, bombarded by perceived threats from every corner of the digital and real world. Consider also the sheer volume of information we consume daily. News cycles that never end, alerts from every app, a constant stream of data demanding our attention. Our ancestors knew only what was immediately relevant to their survival and community. We, however, are privy to every crisis, every disaster, every political upheaval across the globe. While awareness is vital, the sheer weight of this global burden, coupled with our individual struggles, can be overwhelming. It creates a state of chronic low-grade stress, a constant hum of anxiety beneath the surface of our consciousness, making the transition to restful sleep an increasingly difficult feat. Indeed, the modern age has burdened us with a profound mental load, an unquiet symphony of thoughts, worries, and plans that plays incessantly in the background of our minds. This is the mental burden you spoke of, dear listener, and it is a heavy one. Our brains, magnificent as they are, were not designed for the constant processing of abstract information, the endless problem solving, and the perpetual state of readiness that modern life demands. In ancient times, the mind's primary function was to navigate the immediate physical world, to track prey, to remember edible plants, to recognize faces, to plan simple strategies for survival. The challenges were concrete, and their resolution often brought a sense of completion and relief. Today, however, our challenges are often abstract, open-ended, and never truly resolved. The project at work, the financial planning, the complex social dynamics, the future of the planet, these are not problems that can be solved by a single action or a day's labor. They linger, morphing and evolving, demanding continuous attention and mental energy. This constant cognitive engagement prevents the mind from truly winding down. It's like trying to stop a high-speed train instantly. The momentum is too great. Furthermore, the very concept of mental health has come to the forefront precisely because this burden has become so pervasive. Anxiety disorders, depression, chronic stress, these are not merely individual failings, but reflections of a society that has pushed the human psyche to its limits. When the mind is constantly racing, when it is unable to find moments of true stillness and peace, the delicate balance of neurochemicals can be disrupted, further exacerbating sleep difficulties. The irony is cruel. The more we strive for success and connection in this fast-paced world, the more we undermine the very foundation of our well-being, our ability to rest and restore ourselves. The sleeping pill, then, becomes a desperate plea for silence in a world that refuses to be quiet, a forced intermission in the mind's unquiet symphony. One of the most profound shifts from ancient times to our present day is the severing of our deep connection to nature's clock. Our ancestors lived by the sun and the stars, their days dictated by the rising and setting of the sun, their sleep governed by the natural darkness of night. Their internal biological clocks, their circadian rhythms, were perfectly synchronized with the world around them. The gradual dimming of natural light at dusk signaled to their bodies that it was time to prepare for rest, and the first rays of dawn gently awakened them. Today, we have largely insulated ourselves from these natural cues. Our homes and workplaces are bathed in artificial light, often bright and blue spectrum, long after the sun has set. This constant illumination confuses our bodies, suppressing the production of melatonin, the hormone crucial for initiating sleep. We eat at irregular hours, often late into the night, further disrupting our digestive and metabolic rhythms that are also linked to our sleep-wake cycle. The sounds that fill our nights are no longer the gentle symphony of nature, but the hum of refrigerators, the distant drone of traffic, the artificial voices from our televisions and devices. Even our physical activity has changed. While our ancestors engaged and sustained moderate physical exertion throughout the day, many of us lead largely sedentary lives, punctuated by short bursts of intense, often stress-induced activity. Our bodies are not physically tired in the same way, and this lack of natural fatigue can make it harder to fall into a deep, restorative sleep. We have, in essence, created an environment that is constantly telling our bodies it's daytime, even when the clock says it's time for rest. This constant battle against our own biology is a significant contributor to the widespread sleep deprivation and the subsequent reliance on external aids like sleeping pills. The ancient people, living in harmony with the Earth's cycles, would have found our self-imposed nocturnal brightness and constant noise utterly bewildering, a direct assault on the very mechanisms designed to bring us peace and rest. Let us also consider the nourishment we offer our bodies and how vastly it differs from the sustenance that fueled our ancestors. Their diet was simple, seasonal, and whole. Fresh fruits and vegetables gathered from the land, lean proteins from hunted animals or fish, and unrefined grains. Their meals were often eaten communally in daylight and were followed by activity or rest as dictated by the natural rhythms of their day. There were no processed foods laden with sugars, artificial additives, or excessive caffeine. Their bodies were not constantly battling inflammation, blood sugar spikes, or the stimulating effects of modern concoctions. Contrast this with our contemporary eating habits. We consume highly processed foods that offer quick energy but often lead to metabolic imbalances. Sugary drinks and snacks provide fleeting highs, followed by crashes that disrupt our energy levels throughout the day, making it harder to settle down at night. Caffeine, once a rare stimulant, has become a ubiquitous companion. Consumed from morning till late afternoon, its lingering effects silently sabotaging our ability to transition into sleep. And alcohol, often used as a misguided sleep aid, might induce drowsiness but fragment sleep, preventing the deep, restorative stages our bodies desperately need. Furthermore, the very act of eating has changed. Fast food, hurried meals at desks, late-night snacking in front of screens. These habits do not foster the calm and digestive ease necessary for restful sleep. Our digestive systems are constantly working, often on foods that are difficult to process, sending signals of activity rather than rest to our brains. The ancient people, with their clean, natural diets and their lives lived in sync with the earth, experienced a different kind of satiety, a physical and mental calm that naturally led to a peaceful night. Their bodies were nourished, not agitated, by their food, and this fundamental difference played a silent yet profound role in their ability to embrace sleep without struggle or chemical intervention. Another subtle yet significant shift from the ancient world to our own is the erosion of strong community bonds and the rise of individual isolation. Our ancestors lived in tightly knit tribes and villages, where survival depended on cooperation and mutual support. From birth to death, they were surrounded by family, friends, and neighbors, sharing burdens, celebrating joys, and finding solace in collective experience. Loneliness, as we understand it today, was likely a rare and fleeting sensation. The very structure of their lives provided a built-in support system, a sense of belonging that acted as a powerful buffer against stress and anxiety. In contrast, modern society, despite its hyperconnectivity, often fosters a profound sense of isolation. We live in nuclear families, often far from extended relatives. Our neighborhoods can be transient, with little genuine interaction between residents. While social media offers a semblance of connection, it often lacks the depth and authenticity of face-to-face relationships. We curate our online personas, presenting idealized versions of ourselves, which can paradoxically increase feelings of inadequacy and loneliness when our real lives don't measure up. This pervasive sense of isolation is a significant contributor to mental distress. Humans are inherently social creatures, hardwired for connection. When that need is unmet, it can lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, and a general sense of unease. These emotional states are direct antagonists to restful sleep. A mind burdened by loneliness and a lack of genuine connection struggles to find peace at night. The ancient people nestled within the warmth of their communal lives found comfort and security in their shared existence, allowing their minds to relax and their bodies to surrender to sleep, knowing they were part of something larger than themselves. For them, the communal fire was not just a source of warmth, but a symbol of shared safety and belonging, a stark contrast to the solitary glow of our individual screens in the quiet of our lonely nights. Beyond the visual assault of screens and the mental burden of information, our modern world is also a symphony of constant sound, a relentless cacophony that rarely allows for true silence. From the moment we wake, we are often immersed in noise, the blare of alarm clocks, the morning news on television or radio, the traffic outside our windows, the constant notifications from our devices. Our commutes are filled with podcasts, music, or phone calls. Our workplaces hum with the drone of machinery, the chatter of colleagues, the ringing of phones. Even in our homes, the background noise of appliances, televisions, and digital devices is ever present. Our ancestors, by contrast, lived in a world rich with natural sounds, but also profound silence. The sounds they heard were the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, the flow of water, the crackle of fire, the voices of their kin. These sounds were often rhythmic, organic, and harmonious with their environment. Crucially, they also experienced long periods of genuine silence, especially at night. This silence was not an absence, but presence, a space for reflection, for the mind to quieten, for the senses to attune to the subtle rhythms of the natural world. Today, true silence is a rare commodity, almost a luxury. We often feel uncomfortable in its presence, quickly filling it with distractions. Yet our brains need periods of quiet to process information, to consolidate memories, and to simply rest. The constant auditory stimulation keeps our nervous systems in a state of heightened arousal, making it incredibly difficult to transition into the deep relaxation necessary for sleep. Imagine trying to fall asleep in a bustling marketplace. That is, in a metaphorical sense, the environment many of us create for ourselves, even in our own bedrooms. The ancient people, with their nights bathed in the deep quiet of the natural world, understood instinctively the profound restorative power of silence, a power we have largely forgotten in our noisy, restless age. In the ancient world, life was often structured around predictable rhythms and rituals. While not formalized in the way we might think of modern ceremonies, the daily patterns of life naturally led to consistent routines. The rising sun prompted activity, the setting sun signaled a winding down. Meals were likely at regular times, dictated by hunger and the availability of light. Evenings would have involved communal activities, storytelling, or quiet contemplation before the natural descent into sleep. These consistent patterns, repeated day after day, year after year, would have ingrained a powerful sense of routine into their very being, preparing their bodies and minds for rest without conscious effort. Consider the simple act of preparing for sleep. For our ancestors, it might have involved gathering around a dying fire, the warmth and flickering light naturally inducing a state of calm. Perhaps a final shared meal, a quiet conversation, or the preparation of their sleeping space. These were not tasks undertaken with a conscious goal of getting to sleep, but rather the natural culmination of a day lived in harmony with their environment. Their bodies, attuned to these predictable cues, would have effortlessly transitioned from wakefulness to slumber. Today, our lives are often characterized by a profound lack of consistent routine, especially around bedtime. Our schedules are erratic, dictated by work demands, social engagements, and the endless distractions of digital entertainment. We often push through fatigue, staying up late to finish tasks, binge watch shows, or scroll through social media. Our meals are irregular, our exercise patterns inconsistent, and our exposure to light and sound varies wildly from night to night. There is no consistent wind-down period, no sacred ritual that signals to our bodies and minds that it is time to prepare for rest. Instead, we often jump from high-stimulation activities directly into bed, expecting our brains to instantly switch off. This abrupt transition is unnatural and jarring. Our minds, still buzzing from the day's activities or the blue light of a screen, resist the sudden demand for stillness. The absence of these consistent, calming rituals leaves us adrift, struggling to find the anchor that once guided our ancestors effortlessly into the peaceful harbor of sleep. The sleeping pill, in this context, becomes a desperate attempt to impose an artificial ritual, a chemical shortcut to a state that our disrupted routines no longer allow us to achieve naturally. In our modern narrative, there's a subtle yet pervasive belief that busyness equates to importance, success, and value. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, a testament to our dedication and productivity. The phrase "I'm so busy" has become a common greeting, a shorthand for our perceived worth in a fast-paced world. This cult of busyness actively discourages rest, framing it as a luxury, a sign of laziness, or even a weakness. The ancient people, whose lives were intrinsically linked to the cycles of nature, understood that rest was not merely an absence of activity, but an essential component of life, as vital as work itself. For them, periods of rest, whether the deep sleep of night or the seasonal lull of winter, were integral to renewal and sustainability. There was no shame in pausing, in allowing the body and mind to recover. Their rhythm was one of effort and repose, a natural ebb and flow that respected the limits of human endurance. They did not strive for constant, unending output, but for a balanced existence that allowed for both productive labor and restorative stillness. Today, however, the pressure to be constantly on, constantly productive, constantly available, has created a pervasive sense of guilt around rest. We feel compelled to fill every moment, to optimize every hour, to maximize our output. Even our leisure time often becomes another form of busyness, filled with scheduled activities, digital distractions, and the pressure to be entertained. The quiet moments, the spaces for true idleness and contemplation, have largely vanished. This internal pressure, this societal expectation to always be doing something, makes it incredibly difficult to simply be, a prerequisite for falling asleep naturally. When we finally do lie down, our minds, conditioned by this relentless pursuit of busyness, struggle to disengage. The internal monologue continues, replaying the day's activities, planning for tomorrow's tasks, or chastising us for not having done more. The very idea of surrendering to unconsciousness can feel like a loss of control, a moment of vulnerability in a world that demands constant vigilance. The sleeping pill, then, becomes a desperate attempt to force a pause, to chemically induce the rest that our minds, trapped in the cult of busyness, are unwilling or unable to embrace naturally. It is a stark reminder of how far we have drifted from the ancient wisdom that understood rest not as a luxury, but as a fundamental necessity for a well-lived life. Our ancient ancestors lived intimately with the natural world, their lives interwoven with its grand cyclical dance. The sun was their clock, the moon their nightlight, and the changing seasons dictated their labor, their food, and their rest. They felt the subtle shifts in temperature, observed the migration of birds, and understood the profound rhythm of growth and decay. Their bodies and minds were finely tuned instruments, resonating with the Earth's pulse. This deep, unbroken connection to natural cycles provided a profound sense of grounding and predictability, which in turn fostered a sense of security and peace. Today, many of us live in what could be described as an artificial cocoon, largely detached from these fundamental rhythms. We spend the vast majority of our time indoors, under artificial lighting that remains constant, regardless of the time of day or the weather outside. Our homes are climate controlled, shielding us from the natural fluctuations of heat and cold. Our food comes from supermarkets, available year-round, severing our connection to seasonal harvests. We travel in sealed vehicles, work in windowless offices, and entertain ourselves with screens that mimic reality but offer no true sensory engagement with the living world. This detachment has profound implications for our sleep. Our circadian rhythm, the internal biological clock that regulates our sleep-wake cycle, is primarily set by exposure to natural light and darkness. When we are constantly bathed in artificial light, especially the blue light emitted by electronic devices, our bodies struggle to produce melatonin, the hormone that signals to our brain that it's time to prepare for sleep. Our internal clock becomes confused, perpetually stuck in a state of daytime alert, even when the sun has long set. Furthermore, the lack of exposure to natural environments deprives us of the calming and restorative effects that nature provides. Studies have shown that spending time in nature can reduce stress hormones, lower blood pressure, and improve mood, all factors conducive to better sleep. Our ancestors, surrounded by forests, rivers, and open skies, experienced these benefits constantly. For them, the transition from the vibrant activity of day to the quiet contemplation of night was a seamless, natural progression, guided by the fading light and the cooling air. They fell asleep under a canopy of countless stars, a vast, silent expanse that put their daily concerns into perspective. We, however, often fall asleep under the glow of streetlights or the flicker of a television, in environments that, despite their comfort, can feel sterile and disconnected, further contributing to the restless mind that craves the oblivion of a sleeping pill. In the ancient world, the concept of a distinct work-life balance would have been alien. Life was integrated. Work was often communal, intertwined with family and daily existence. When the sun set, work ceased, not because of a policy, but because it was physically impossible or impractical to continue. There was a natural, undeniable boundary between the active day and the restful night. The tools of their labor were put away, and the mind was free to disengage from the demands of production. Today, however, the lines between work and personal life have blurred to an unprecedented degree, largely due to the pervasive nature of constant connectivity. This always-on culture creates a persistent state of low-level stress. Even if we're not actively working, the knowledge that we could be, or that a new demand might arrive at any moment, keeps our minds in a state of readiness, a subtle vigilance that prevents true relaxation. The expectation of immediate responses, fueled by instant messaging and email, means that our brains are constantly anticipating the next input, making it incredibly difficult to switch off and unwind. The mental space that was once reserved for personal reflection, family time, or simply quiet contemplation has been invaded by the demands of our professional lives. For our ancestors, the transition from day to night was a clear, unambiguous signal for the mind to shift gears, to move from problem-solving and activity to rest and restoration. There was no checking in after hours, no urgent message that couldn't wait until morning. Their minds were free to roam, to dream, to simply be. We, on the other hand, carry the weight of our professional responsibilities into our homes, into our beds, and often into our dreams. This unceasing hum of connectivity, this vanishing of clear boundaries, is a significant reason why our minds struggle to find the peace necessary for natural sleep, pushing us further towards the artificial quiet offered by a pill. In the ancient world, boredom, as we understand it, was likely a rare and perhaps even valuable state. Without the constant barrage of external stimuli, the mind was left to its own devices. This wasn't a void to be feared, but a space for contemplation, for creative thought, for processing the day's events, and for simply being. Children, left to their own imaginations, would invent games from sticks and stones. Adults, during lulls in activity, might gaze at the clouds, listen to the wind, or simply sit in quiet reflection. These moments of boredom were crucial for mental digestion, for allowing the brain to sort, categorize, and integrate experiences, and ultimately to wind down. Today, however, we live in an age where boredom is seen as an enemy, a state to be avoided at all costs. We are constantly plugged in, constantly entertained, constantly stimulated. Our pockets hold entire libraries of content, endless streams of videos, games, and social feeds, all designed to capture and hold our attention. From the moment we wake until the moment we close our eyes, our senses are bombarded with information and entertainment. The quiet moments, the waiting times, the lulls in conversation, all are immediately filled by reaching for our devices. This constant stimulation has a profound impact on our ability to sleep. Our brains are like muscles. If they are constantly engaged in high-intensity activity, they struggle to relax and switch off. The rapid-fire nature of digital content, the constant novelty, and the reward-driven algorithms are designed to keep us hooked, to keep our dopamine levels elevated. This makes it incredibly difficult to transition to a state of calm and quiet necessary for sleep. Our minds, accustomed to the thrill of constant engagement, resist the stillness of the bedroom. They crave the next piece of information, the next laugh, the next distraction. For our ancestors, the evening was a natural descent into lower stimulation. The fading light, the quiet of the night, the lack of external distractions, all these cues gently guided their minds towards a state of rest. They didn't need to actively unwind from a day of digital overload because such overload simply didn't exist. The art of boredom, the ability to simply be with one's thoughts without external input, was a natural part of their existence, a crucial precursor to the deep, restorative sleep that came so easily. We, in our relentless pursuit of entertainment, have inadvertently trained our brains to be perpetually alert, making the journey to the land of dreams far more arduous, one often requiring the artificial nudge of a sleeping pill to silence the overstimulated mind. In our hurried existence, we often find ourselves living in the future or dwelling in the past. Our minds race ahead to tomorrow's tasks or replay yesterday's regrets. This constant mental time travel is a significant barrier to restful sleep. The ancient people, while certainly planning for the future and learning from the past, were far more rooted in the present moment. Their survival depended on it. The hunter needed to be fully present to track his prey, the gatherer to identify edible plants, the storyteller to captivate his audience. Their lives, dictated by the immediate demands of their environment, fostered a natural state of mindfulness. Today, however, our attention is constantly fragmented. We multitask, we switch between apps, we consume information in bite-sized pieces. This trains our brains to be perpetually distracted, making it incredibly difficult to settle into the quiet, sustained focus required for true relaxation. The very act of lying down to sleep often becomes an invitation for the mind to replay the day as anxieties or to spin elaborate scenarios for tomorrow. This is where the gentle art of presence becomes our most powerful ally. To reclaim the present moment is to consciously choose to anchor ourselves in the here and now. It means noticing the warmth of the blanket, the softness of the pillow, the gentle rhythm of our own breath. It means acknowledging the thoughts that arise, but choosing not to engage with them, allowing them to drift by like clouds in the sky. This practice, often cultivated through meditation or simple breathing exercises, is not about emptying the mind, but about changing our relationship with our thoughts. Instead of being swept away by the mind's incessant chatter, we become the calm observer. And central to this reclamation of presence is the conscious act of disconnecting from the digital world. The glowing screens, the endless notifications, the constant stream of information, these are powerful pulls that yank us out of the present and into a vortex of external demands. Creating a sacred digital sunset, a time each evening when all screens are put away, is not merely a suggestion, but a vital act of self-preservation. It allows our minds to gradually unwind, to process the day's experiences without the constant influx of new data. It gives us back the precious moments of quiet contemplation, of genuine connection with loved ones, or simply of peaceful solitude that were once the natural precursors to a night of deep, restorative sleep. By choosing presence over distraction, by embracing the quiet of disconnection, we begin to untangle the knots of restlessness and invite the gentle lullaby of forgotten dreams back into our lives. Our bodies, magnificent machines of muscle and bone, were designed for movement. For our ancient ancestors, physical activity was not a choice, but a necessity for survival. Their days were filled with walking, running, hunting, gathering, building, and cultivating. Their muscles were constantly engaged, their cardiovascular systems robust, and their bodies experienced a natural, healthy fatigue by the end of the day. This physical exertion was not just about survival. It was a fundamental component of their well-being, including their ability to sleep soundly. A body that has been used as it was intended, that has expended its energy in meaningful ways, naturally craves and achieves deep rest. Contrast this with the lives many of us lead today. We sit for hours at desks, commute in cars, and spend our evenings on couches. Our physical activity is often compartmentalized into short bursts at the gym, if at all. While exercise is beneficial, it often doesn't replicate the sustained, varied physical demands that our ancestors experienced. Our bodies, designed for constant motion, are often left in a state of restless inactivity. This lack of natural physical fatigue means that when we finally lie down, our bodies may not feel the profound need for rest that comes from a day of honest labor. Furthermore, the sedentary lifestyle contributes to a host of physical ailments, back pain, stiffness, poor circulation, which can directly interfere with comfortable sleep. A body that is tense and uncomfortable struggles to relax into slumber. The energy that is not expended during the day can manifest as restlessness at night, a kind of physical agitation that prevents the mind from settling. Our ancestors, whose bodies were tired in a satisfying way, found sleep to be a natural consequence of their active lives. Their muscles ached not from tension, but from honest work, and this ache was a lullaby, inviting them into deep, restorative sleep. Reconnecting with our bodies through movement is a powerful step towards reclaiming natural sleep. It doesn't necessarily mean returning to hunting and gathering, but it does mean integrating more natural, consistent movement into our daily lives. A brisk walk in the fresh air, a gentle stretch, a dance, or simply choosing to stand more often. These small acts can begin to reawaken the body's innate need for rest. When our bodies are truly tired, not just mentally exhausted, the path to sleep becomes clearer, and the need for artificial aids diminishes. The ancient wisdom whispers that a well-used body is a body that sleeps well, a simple truth we are slowly beginning to remember in our quest for restful nights. In the ancient world, long before the written word became commonplace, storytelling was a vital and sacred art. As darkness fell and the community gathered around the fire, the storyteller would weave tales of creation, of heroes and monsters, of the stars and the seasons. These stories were not mere entertainment. They were a way of making sense of the world, of passing down wisdom, of fostering a sense of shared identity and wonder. The rhythmic cadence of the storyteller's voice, the flickering firelight, the shared experience of being transported to another world, all these elements combine to create a powerful, calming effect on the mind. For the listeners, these stories provided a gentle transition from the active, problem-solving mindset of the day to a more receptive, imaginative state. The mind, engaged in the narrative, was naturally drawn away from personal worries and anxieties. The imagination, sparked by the tale, could roam freely, unburdened by the constraints of reality. This state of relaxed, imaginative engagement is a natural precursor to the dream state, a gentle on-ramp to the world of sleep. The storyteller's voice, in essence, was a lullaby for the entire community, a soothing balm for the collective soul. Today we have largely lost this tradition. Our evening entertainment is often fast-paced, visually jarring, and emotionally agitating. We consume content that is designed to shock, to thrill, to keep us on the edge of our seats, all states that are antithetical to the calm required for sleep. We have forgotten the simple, profound power of a well-told story to soothe the mind and prepare it for rest. The art of listening, of surrendering to a narrative, has been replaced by the active, often anxious consumption of digital media. But the power of story is not lost to us. We can reclaim it. This is the very essence of the tale I am weaving for you tonight, dear listener. By allowing yourself to be guided by my words, by engaging your imagination in this journey from the ancient past to the present moment, you are participating in a timeless ritual. You're giving your mind a gentle focus, a soothing narrative to follow, a path away from the tangled thicket of your daily concerns. This is the promise I offer, to be your storyteller, to provide a gentle lullaby for your restless mind, to remind you of the forgotten power of imagination to unlock the gates of peaceful, restorative sleep. Let the story be your guide, and may it lead you to the deep, untroubled slumber you so richly deserve. Among the many simple yet profound tools our ancestors possessed, one stands out as universally accessible and eternally powerful: the breath. They may not have articulated it in terms of diaphragmatic breathing or parasympathetic nervous system activation, but they instinctively understood the connection between breath and state of being. A calm, deep breath was a natural response to peace, and a rapid, shallow breath a reaction to fear or exertion. They lived in a world where their breath was often a direct reflection of their immediate environment and their physical state. Today, in our fast-paced, stress-filled lives, our breathing often becomes shallow, rapid, and held high in the chest. This fight or flight breathing pattern, while useful in moments of acute danger, becomes a chronic state for many, constantly signaling to our nervous system that we are under threat. This keeps our bodies and minds in a state of heightened arousal, making relaxation and sleep incredibly difficult. It's like trying to put a car in park while your foot is still on the accelerator. The ancient people whose lives were more attuned to their bodies in the natural world likely breathed more deeply and rhythmically as a matter of course. Their physical labor encouraged full lung capacity, and their moments of quiet contemplation allowed for natural, unforced respiration. They didn't need apps or guided meditations to teach them how to breathe. It was an inherent part of their harmonious existence. But the good news, dear listener, is that this ancient anchor to calm is still within you, always available. By consciously bringing your attention to your breath, you can begin to gently guide your nervous system from a state of agitation to one of peace. A slow, deep inhale, allowing your belly to rise, followed by a long, gentle exhale, can be a powerful signal to your body that it is safe to relax. This simple practice, performed for just a few minutes before bed, can begin to untangle the knots of tension that accumulate throughout the day. It is a return to a fundamental truth, that peace begins within, and it is often found in the simplest of acts. The breath is your personal lullaby, a rhythm that can soothe your racing mind and prepare your body for the deep, restorative sleep it craves. It is a reminder that you hold the power to calm yourself, to find stillness amidst the chaos, and to gently usher yourself into the land of dreams without the need for any external aid. Just as the ancient wains whispered through the trees, your breath can whisper peace into your very being, guiding you home to sleep. In the ancient world, life was often hard, filled with challenges and uncertainties. Yet there was also a profound connection to the cycles of nature, a deep understanding of interdependence, and perhaps a more inherent capacity for gratitude. When a hunt was successful, when the harvest was bountiful, when the community was safe, these were moments of profound appreciation. Their evenings, after the day's labors, might have included simple rituals of reflection, perhaps sharing stories of the day's blessings, or offering thanks to the spirits of the land. This practice of acknowledging the good, however small, would have fostered a sense of contentment and peace, a gentle mental cleansing before the descent into sleep. Today, our lives, while materially richer for many, are often characterized by a focus on what is lacking, what is yet to be achieved, or what has gone wrong. Our minds, especially as night approaches, can become a battlefield of worries, regrets, and anxieties. We replay negative interactions, fret over future challenges, and compare ourselves to others, creating a mental landscape that is anything but conducive to restful sleep. This constant internal critique and future-oriented worry keep our nervous systems activated, making it nearly impossible to truly relax. The practice of gratitude, however, offers a powerful antidote to this modern malaise. It is a conscious shift in focus, a deliberate turning of attention towards the positive aspects of our lives, no matter how small. Just as our ancestors might have counted their blessings around a crackling fire, we too can cultivate an evening harvest of gratitude before bed. This doesn't require grand gestures or profound spiritual awakenings. It can be as simple as recalling 3 good things that happened during the day, or appreciating the comfort of your bed, the warmth of your home, or the sound of a loved one's breath beside you. This simple act of positive reflection, performed consistently, can begin to rewire the brain, shifting it from a state of anxiety and vigilance to one of calm and contentment. It helps to quiet the critical inner voice and replace it with a sense of peace and appreciation. When your mind is filled with thoughts of gratitude, there is less room for worry and fear. It is a gentle way to prepare the mental soil for the seeds of sleep, allowing them to take root deeply and grow into a night of profound rest. The ancient wisdom reminds us that a grateful heart is a peaceful heart, and a peaceful heart is the truest gateway to the land of dreams, a gateway that needs no chemical key, only the soft light of appreciation. For our ancient forebears, the concept of a dedicated sleep space might have been less about a specially designed room and more about the inherent safety and comfort of their communal dwelling or chosen resting spot. Yet, even within their simpler lives, there would have been an implicit understanding of preparing for rest. The fire would be banked, the tools put away, the children settled. There was an intentional winding down, a collective agreement that the time for activity was ending and the time for rest was beginning. Their sacred space for sleep was often the collective warmth and security of their tribe, a place where they felt safe enough to surrender to unconsciousness. Today, our bedrooms, which should be sanctuaries of rest, often become extensions of our busy, overstimulated lives. They house televisions, laptops, and smartphones, blurring the lines between work, entertainment, and sleep. The very environment designed for repose becomes a source of distraction and stimulation. The light from screens, the notifications, the mental association of the bed with activities other than sleep, all conspire against our natural ability to unwind. To reclaim restful sleep, we must begin to treat our sleep space as sacred, a sanctuary dedicated solely to rest and intimacy. This means consciously removing distractions, banishing screens, dimming lights, and ensuring the room is cool, dark, and quiet. It means creating an environment that signals to our bodies and minds that this is a place of peace, a haven where the day's demands are left at the door. It's about cultivating a sensory experience that whispers sleep. Beyond the physical space, there is the equally important act of intentional surrender. In our modern world, we are often in a state of constant control, constantly striving, constantly doing. Sleep, however, requires a letting go, a surrender to the unknown, a release of control. This can be challenging for minds accustomed to being in charge. Setting an intention before bed, a quiet internal declaration that you are ready to release the day and embrace rest, can be a powerful practice. It's not about forcing sleep, but about inviting it, creating the mental and emotional conditions for it to arrive naturally. Imagine yourself as you prepare for bed, consciously shedding the layers of the day's worries one by one. Picture your mind as a calm lake, its surface still and reflective. This intentional act of mental and physical preparation, this creation of a sacred space and a willing surrender, is a profound echo of the ancient wisdom. It reminds us that sleep is not something we conquer, but something we invite, something we allow. And in that gentle invitation, in that intentional letting go, lies the key to unlocking the deepest, most restorative sleep, a sleep that needs no chemical persuasion, only the quiet trust in our own innate capacity for rest. In the ancient world, physical touch and close proximity were integral to daily life. Families lived in close quarters, often sharing sleeping spaces. Communities gathered for meals, for storytelling, for work, and for celebration, with bodies often brushing, hands touching, and the warmth of another person always near. Children were carried, adults embraced, and the elderly were supported by the physical presence of their kin. This constant natural physical connection, often unconscious, provided a profound sense of safety, belonging, and comfort. It regulated the nervous system, released oxytocin, the cuddle hormone, and fostered a deep sense of security that is highly conducive to relaxation and sleep. Consider the simple act of a mother holding her child, or two friends walking arm in arm. These seemingly small gestures are powerful biological regulators, signaling to our brains that we are safe, loved, and not alone. For our ancestors, this was the norm, a constant, gentle hum of physical reassurance that permeated their existence. When they lay down to sleep, they were often surrounded by the warmth and presence of others, a primal comfort that allowed their bodies to fully relax and their minds to surrender. Today, however, many of us live in a world that is increasingly touch-deprived. We commute in isolated vehicles, work in individual cubicles, and interact digitally more often than physically. Even within families, the demands of modern life can limit opportunities for casual, comforting touch. The fear of contagion, the rise of personal space boundaries, and the shift towards virtual interactions have all contributed to a society where genuine, non-sexual physical contact is often scarce. This lack of physical connection can lead to a subtle but pervasive sense of unease, a feeling of being disconnected and unsupported. Our bodies, still wired for the ancient need for touch, register this deficit. The nervous system remains slightly on edge, sensing a lack of the reassuring physical cues that once signaled safety and belonging. This underlying tension can manifest as restlessness, anxiety, and an inability to fully relax, making the transition to sleep a struggle. The sleeping pill, in this context, becomes a substitute for the soothing embrace that our bodies instinctively crave, a chemical attempt to replicate the calm that once came from the simple warmth of another human being. Reclaiming the power of safe, consensual physical connection, whether through hugs with loved ones, the comforting presence of a pet, or even the grounding sensation of a weighted blanket, can be a profound step towards restoring the sense of security and peace that is essential for deep, natural sleep. It is a return to the ancient wisdom that understood the body as a vessel for connection and connection as a pathway to profound rest. Let us delve deeper into one of the most profound disruptions to our natural sleep patterns, the pervasive presence of artificial light. For millennia, the human species evolved under the clear, undeniable rhythm of the sun and the moon. Daylight was bright, signaling activity and wakefulness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, darkness descended, deep and profound, signaling rest and repair. Our bodies, through countless generations, became exquisitely tuned to this natural cycle, developing an internal biological clock, the circadian rhythm, that orchestrated nearly every physiological process, from hormone release to body temperature regulation, all in preparation for sleep and wakefulness. In the ancient world, the only sources of light after sunset were firelight and the moon and stars. These light sources are dim and primarily redshifted, meaning they do not significantly interfere with the production of melatonin, the crucial hormone that signals to our brain that it's time to prepare for sleep. As the evening progressed, the natural dimming of light would trigger the pineal gland to begin its nightly release of melatonin, gently ushering the body into a state of drowsiness and preparing it for slumber. Sleep was not something they had to try to do. It was an inevitable, natural consequence of living in harmony with the Earth's rotation. Today, however, we live in a world bathed in artificial illumination. Our homes, offices, and public spaces are flooded with electric light, often bright and rich in blue wavelengths, long after the sun has set. These blue wavelengths, while beneficial during the day for alertness, are particularly disruptive at night. Our brains interpret this blue light as a signal of daytime, effectively tricking our internal clock into believing it's still broad daylight. This suppresses the natural production of melatonin, delaying the onset of sleep and making it harder to fall asleep, even when we are physically tired. Consider the simple act of checking your phone or watching television in bed. The bright blue-rich light from these screens directly hits your retinas, sending a powerful message to your brain: stay awake. It's not time for sleep yet. This constant exposure to artificial light, especially in the hours leading up to bedtime, is a primary culprit in the widespread sleep deprivation and insomnia that plague modern society. Our bodies are constantly receiving conflicting signals. The clock on the wall says it's midnight, but the light entering our eyes says it's noon. This confusion creates a state of chronic physiological stress, making it incredibly difficult for the body to relax and surrender to sleep. Our ancestors, by contrast, experienced true darkness. Their nights were not punctuated by the glow of streetlights or the flicker of screens. They slept in profound darkness, allowing their melatonin to flow freely, guiding them into deep, restorative slumber. Reclaiming this natural rhythm means consciously reducing our exposure to artificial light, especially blue light, in the evenings. It means creating a cave for sleep, a dark, quiet, cool sanctuary where our internal clock can reset and our bodies can remember how to produce the natural sleep signals they were designed to generate. It is a return to the fundamental wisdom of light and darkness, a wisdom that the ancient people lived by, and one that holds a powerful key to unlocking the gates of natural pill-free sleep. Imagine, if you can, the soundscape of the ancient world as night descended. It would have been a symphony of natural sounds, the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant hoot of an owl, the rhythmic chirping of crickets, the soft murmur of a nearby stream, perhaps the crackle of a dying fire. These sounds, far from being disruptive, were often soothing, rhythmic, and deeply familiar. They were the sounds of life, of nature, and they provided a comforting backdrop against which the mind could unwind and drift into sleep. There was a profound silence, too, in between these natural sounds. a deep quiet that allowed for introspection and true mental rest. The ears of our ancestors were attuned to the subtle shifts in their environment, but they were not constantly assaulted by a barrage of artificial noise. Today, however, our world is often a relentless cacophony. Even in what we consider quiet residential areas, the hum of distant traffic, the drone of air conditioning units, the intermittent bark of a neighbor's dog, or the distant wail of a siren can permeate the night. In urban environments, the noise is constant and overwhelming. The roar of traffic, the blare of horns, the thumping bass from distant music, the chatter of late-night revelers. Even within our homes, we often fill the silence with artificial sounds, the television left on, the radio playing softly, the constant notifications from our devices. This pervasive noise pollution has a significant impact on our ability to achieve restful sleep. Our auditory system is constantly on alert, even when we are asleep. Sudden or loud noises can trigger our fight or flight response, releasing stress hormones and pulling us out of deeper sleep stages. Even continuous low-level noise can prevent the brain from fully relaxing and entering the restorative delta wave sleep. Our ears, unlike our eyes, do not have lids to close out the world. They are constantly receiving input, and in a noisy environment, this input can keep our nervous system in a state of heightened arousal, making it incredibly difficult to fall asleep and stay asleep. For our ancestors, the quiet of the night was a natural signal for rest. Their ears were soothed by the gentle rhythms of nature, or the profound silence that allowed their minds to truly disengage. They didn't need white noise machines or earplugs to block out unwanted sounds. Their environment naturally provided the auditory peace necessary for slumber. Reclaiming this peace means consciously creating a quieter environment for sleep. It might involve soundproofing, using earplugs, or even embracing natural sounds that mimic the ancient soundscape. By giving our ears the rest they deserve, we can help our minds find the stillness necessary to drift into the deep, restorative sleep that has been lost in the modern world's relentless clamor. In the ancient world, work was often directly tied to survival and community. Whether it was hunting, gathering, farming, or crafting, the labor was tangible, its purpose clear, and its results immediately visible. There was a profound sense of satisfaction that came from a day of honest, physical work that directly contributed to the well-being of oneself and one's tribe. The hunter brought food, the farmer cultivated sustenance, the builder created shelter. This direct connection between effort and outcome, between individual contribution and collective benefit, instilled a deep sense of purpose and accomplishment. When our ancestors lay down to sleep, their bodies were tired from meaningful exertion, and their minds were quieted by the satisfaction of a day well spent, a purpose fulfilled. Today, for many, work has become increasingly abstract, disconnected from tangible outcomes, and often devoid of a clear sense of purpose. We sit in front of screens, manipulating data, attending endless meetings, and performing tasks whose ultimate impact can feel obscure or insignificant. The fruits of our labor are often not a bountiful harvest or a sturdy shelter, but numbers on a spreadsheet or lines of code. This detachment from the direct, meaningful impact of our work can lead to a pervasive sense of unfulfillment, a feeling that our efforts are not truly contributing to something larger than ourselves. This lack of perceived purpose can be a significant source of existential anxiety. When our days feel meaningless, or when our work feels like a mere cog in a giant, impersonal machine, it can be difficult to find peace at night. Our minds, instead of resting, may churn with questions of identity, value, and the meaning of our existence. The energy that would have been channeled into purposeful physical activity in the ancient world now often manifests as mental restlessness, a search for meaning that continues even as we try to sleep. Furthermore, the modern emphasis on career advancement, competition, And material success can turn work into a relentless treadmill where the goal is always just out of reach. This constant striving, coupled with the feeling that our work lacks intrinsic meaning, creates a chronic state of dissatisfaction and stress. The ancient people, while facing their own hardships, found purpose in the immediate realities of their lives and the clear needs of their community. Their work was their life, and their life had a clear, undeniable purpose. This foundational sense of meaning allowed them to approach rest with a quiet mind, knowing that their contribution had been made, and that tomorrow would bring another opportunity for purposeful action. For us, the sleeping pill can become a temporary escape from the nagging questions of purpose, a forced oblivion when the day's empty labor leaves the mind restless and unfulfilled. In the ancient world, while scarcity was a very real and immediate threat, the nature of economic anxiety was fundamentally different. Their wealth was often measured in tangible assets, the fertility of their land, the health of their livestock, the abundance of their harvest, the strength of their community. While a bad harvest or a harsh winter could bring hardship, the solutions were often communal, sharing resources, relying on the generosity of neighbors, or migrating to more fertile grounds. The fear was often of immediate physical deprivation, but the response was often collective, fostering resilience and mutual support. Their economic system, if one could call it that, was largely based on direct exchange and the immediate needs of survival, not on abstract numbers or future projections. Today, however, financial stress has become a pervasive and insidious source of anxiety, a heavy weight that often settles on our minds as night approaches. Our economic system is complex, abstract, and often feels beyond our control. We worry about job security, rising costs of living, mortgage, debts, retirement savings, and the unpredictable fluctuations of the global market. These are not immediate, tangible threats that can be solved by a day's hunt or a communal effort. They are often long-term, abstract anxieties that gnaw at us relentlessly. The fear of scarcity, once a primal concern for food and shelter, has morphed into a fear of not having enough money, of not being able to provide for our families, of falling behind in a competitive society. This fear is often exacerbated by the constant bombardment of advertising, which creates artificial needs and fosters a sense of inadequacy if we cannot afford the latest products or experiences. The pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle, to keep up with perceived societal expectations, adds another layer of stress. This chronic financial worry is a direct antagonist to restful sleep. Our minds, instead of unwinding, become calculators, tallying bills, projecting future expenses, and replaying financial decisions. The stress hormones released by this anxiety keep our bodies in a state of alert, making it impossible to relax into slumber. The ancient people, while facing their own forms of scarcity, did not carry the abstract, pervasive burden of financial insecurity in the same way. Their worries were often resolved by the light of day, through direct action and communal support. For us, the sleeping pill can become a temporary escape from the relentless calculations of a worried mind, a brief respite from the fear that the weight of gold, or the lack thereof, will crush our peace. It is a stark reminder that even in an age of unprecedented material abundance, the fear of scarcity in its modern form can be a powerful thief of sleep. In the ancient world, the concept of self-optimization as a relentless, never-ending pursuit would have been utterly foreign. Their lives were about survival, community, and living in harmony with nature. While they certainly strived for competence in their skills, hunting, crafting, healing, this striving was rooted in practical necessity and the desire to contribute to the tribe. There was an acceptance of human limitations, a recognition that perfection was an ideal, not a constant, achievable state. Their worth was inherent, tied to their existence and their role within the community, not to a constantly shifting metric of personal improvement. Today, however, we live in an era obsessed with self-optimization. From the moment we wake, we are bombarded with messages about how to be better, faster, stronger, smarter, happier, more productive, more attractive. Social media showcases curated vibes of apparent perfection, creating an unspoken pressure to measure up. The self-help industry, while offering valuable insights, can also inadvertently fuel a relentless pursuit of an idealized self, implying that we are somehow incomplete or insufficient as we are. This constant striving, this internal pressure to always be improving, to never be enough, creates a profound and insidious form of exhaustion. Our minds are perpetually engaged in self-assessment, self-critique, and planning for future improvement. We analyze our diets, our exercise routines, our productivity hacks, our social interactions, all through the lens of optimization. This mental labor is draining, leaving little room for the kind of relaxed, unburdened state that is essential for sleep. The ancient people, free from this relentless internal pressure, could simply be. Their worth was not contingent on their latest achievement or their optimized routine. They lived in a world where effort was followed by rest, and where being present in the moment was often the highest form of wisdom. They didn't to carry the mental burden of constantly evaluating their own performance or striving for an unattainable ideal. This acceptance of themselves and of the natural ebb and flow of life allowed their minds to quieten more easily at night. For us, the pursuit of perfection can turn our very beds into another arena for self-optimization. We might worry about whether we've had enough deep sleep according to our wearable trackers, or whether our bedtime routine was perfect enough. This anxiety about achieving optimal sleep paradoxically makes sleep harder to attain. The sleeping pill, in this context, becomes a desperate attempt to force the optimal outcome, to chemically induce the rest that our over-optimized, perfection-seeking minds refuse to grant naturally. It is a poignant reminder that sometimes the greatest act of self-optimization is simply to let go, to accept our imperfections, and to allow ourselves the profound, unearned gift of rest. In the ancient world, while social hierarchies and roles certainly existed, the scope of comparison was inherently limited. One's immediate community, perhaps a few neighboring tribes, formed the entirety of their social world. Achievements were often communal: a successful hunt, a bountiful harvest, a well-built dwelling. An individual status was often earned through direct contribution and recognized within a relatively small, stable group. There was less opportunity and perhaps less inclination for the kind of relentless, often damaging, social comparison that defines much of modern life. Today, however, we live in a world where comparison is not just possible, but actively encouraged and amplified by digital platforms. Social media, in particular, acts as a distorted mirror, reflecting back to us curated, idealized versions of other people's lives. We see their perfect vacations, their successful careers, their beautiful homes, their seemingly effortless happiness. This constant bombardment of seemingly perfect lives creates an insidious pressure to measure up, to perform, to present an equally flawless facade. This relentless comparison fuels a deep sense of inadequacy and anxiety. We constantly evaluate our own lives against these unattainable ideals, leading to feelings of envy, self-doubt, and a pervasive fear of missing out, FOMO. The pressure to maintain a certain image, to keep up with trends, to always be achieving and experiencing, creates a mental treadmill that never stops. Even when we are physically at rest, our minds are often still running, replaying perceived social failures, strategizing how to present a better image, or worrying about how we are perceived by others. This social pressure is a profound antagonist to restful sleep. The mind, instead of settling into peace, remains vigilant, constantly assessing, constantly comparing. The fear of judgment, the desire for validation, and the anxiety of not being enough keep the nervous system in a state of heightened arousal. Our ancestors, whose social world was intimate and tangible, found their worth in direct relationships and contributions. Their minds were not burdened by the abstract, globalized pressures of social comparison. They slept with the quiet confidence of belonging, a confidence that is often elusive in our hyper-connected, yet paradoxically isolating modern world. The sleeping pill, in this context, becomes a temporary escape from the relentless internal dialogue of comparison, a forced silence when the weight of social expectation becomes too heavy to bear. For our ancient ancestors, travel was a monumental undertaking, often a journey of weeks or months, dictated by the pace of their own feet or the speed of an animal. When they moved across significant distances, their bodies had ample time to gradually adjust to new time zones, new climates, and new light cycles. Their internal clocks, while perhaps experiencing a subtle shift, were not violently wrenched out of sync. Their lives were largely localized, their rhythms deeply rooted in the specific geography they inhabited. Today, however, the world has shrunk. We can cross continents in a matter of hours, traversing multiple time zones before the sun has even set on our departure point. This incredible feat of modern engineering, while offering unparalleled opportunities for exploration and commerce, comes at a significant biological cost. Our bodies, designed for gradual adaptation, are suddenly thrust into a new temporal reality, leading to the disorienting and debilitating phenomenon known as jet lag. Jet lag is a stark illustration of the profound impact of circadian rhythm disruption. Our internal clock, still operating on the time of our origin, clashes violently with the external cues of our destination. Our bodies are told it's daytime when it's biologically night, and vice versa. Melatonin production is out of sync, hunger pangs strike at odd hours, and our energy levels fluctuate wildly. The result is often profound fatigue, difficulty concentrating, digestive issues, and, most notably, severe sleep disturbances. We lie awake when we should be sleeping and feel drowsy when we should be alert. Even without international travel, the constant movement of modern life, early morning commutes, late night meetings, shifting work schedules, can create a milder chronic form of this temporal displacement. Our bodies are constantly trying to catch up, constantly trying to resynchronize with a schedule that is often erratic and unnatural. The ancient people, rooted in their specific locales, rarely experienced this kind of temporal confusion. Their days and nights were predictable, their internal clocks aligned with the external world. They didn't need to force their bodies to sleep at an unnatural hour. Sleep came when the world around them signaled it was time. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to force the body into submission, to chemically impose a sleep schedule that our disoriented internal clock refuses to adopt naturally. It is a powerful reminder that our modern mobility, while a marvel, also places immense strain on our ancient biological systems, making the simple act of falling asleep a complex challenge that often requires artificial intervention. Our ancient ancestors lived in intimate communion with their bodies. Their survival depended on it. They felt the pangs of hunger and ate. They felt the chill of the wind and sought shelter. They felt the ache of tired muscles and rested. Their bodies communicated with them through clear, undeniable signals, and they listened. There was a direct, unmediated relationship between their physical sensations and their actions. When their bodies signaled fatigue, they honored it with rest. When their bodies signaled hunger, they sought sustenance. This deep attunement to their internal states meant that their physical needs were met with a natural responsiveness, fostering a sense of balance and well-being. Today, however, many of us have become profoundly disconnected from our body's natural whispers. We override hunger signals with busy schedules, push through fatigue with caffeine, and ignore the aches and pains of our bodies in pursuit of productivity or entertainment. Our minds, constantly engaged in planning, analyzing, and reacting to external stimuli, have taken precedence over the wisdom of our physical selves. We live largely from the neck up, neglecting the profound intelligence that resides within our physical form. Consider the subtle cues our bodies send us throughout the day, signaling the need for a break, a stretch, a moment of quiet. How often do we truly listen? Instead, we push through, driven by deadlines, social obligations, or the endless scroll of our devices. This constant overriding of our body's natural rhythms creates a state of chronic internal tension. Our nervous system remains in a state of low-grade alert, constantly fighting against the body's innate desire for balance and rest. When it comes to sleep, this disconnection is particularly detrimental. Our bodies are designed to gradually wind down as evening approaches, sending signals of fatigue and drowsiness. But if we are constantly stimulating ourselves with bright lights, loud noises, and engaging content, we effectively mute these natural signals. We then wonder why sleep doesn't come easily, failing to recognize that we have spent the entire day ignoring the very cues that would have naturally guided us towards rest. The ancient people, with their lives lived in direct response to their physical needs and the rhythms of nature, experienced a different kind of embodiment. Their bodies were their primary tools for survival, and they respected their limits and their wisdom. When their bodies whispered for rest, they listened, and sleep came as a natural, unforced surrender. For us, the sleeping pill becomes a desperate attempt to force the body into a state of rest that our overriding minds and disconnected lifestyles have prevented it from achieving naturally. It is a powerful invitation to return to the wisdom of our own bodies, to listen to their subtle whispers, and to honor their innate need for rest, allowing them to guide us gently back to the land of dreams. For our ancient ancestors, the future, while uncertain, was often conceived in more immediate and tangible terms. They planned for the next hunt, the next harvest, the coming winter. Their anxieties were often rooted in the immediate challenges of survival, a drought, a predator, a rival tribe. While these were significant concerns, their resolution often involved direct action in the present, and the scope of their future planning was generally limited to what they could directly influence within their immediate environment. There was a profound acceptance of the unknown, a reliance on the rhythms of nature and the strength of their community to navigate what lay ahead. Their minds, while capable of foresight, were not constantly burdened by the abstract, long-term anxieties that plague us today. Today, however, our minds are often perpetually tethered to the future. We plan not just for tomorrow, but for next week, next month, next year, and even decades ahead. We worry about retirement, our children's education, climate change, global politics, and a myriad of other complex, often uncontrollable, variables. The sheer volume of potential future scenarios, both personal and global, creates a constant hum of anxiety, a feeling that we must always be prepared, always be strategizing, always be anticipating the next challenge. This relentless future orientation prevents our minds from truly resting in the present moment. Even when we are ostensibly relaxing, our thoughts often drift to what needs to be done, what might go wrong, or what opportunities we might be missing. The quiet of the night, instead of being a sanctuary for rest, becomes a fertile ground for these future-oriented worries to blossom. Our brains, designed to solve problems, become trapped in a loop of hypothetical scenarios, endlessly rehearsing potential outcomes and searching for solutions to problems that may never materialize. This constant mental projection into the future keeps our nervous systems in a state of heightened arousal, making it incredibly difficult to transition into the relaxed state necessary for sleep. The ancient people, while certainly prudent, lived more deeply in the present. Their connection to the immediate realities of their environment, their reliance on direct experience, and their acceptance of the natural flow of life allowed their minds to be more grounded. When night fell, their concerns were often those of the day just past, or the immediate needs of the morning to come, not the vast, abstract anxieties of a distant, uncertain future. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to silence this relentless future planning, to chemically impose a temporary amnesia of tomorrow's burdens. It is a poignant reminder that our modern capacity for foresight, while a testament to our intelligence, has also become a source of profound mental unrest, making the simple act of surrendering to the present moment, and thus to sleep an increasingly challenging endeavor. The quantified self and the loss of intuitive being. In the ancient world, knowledge of oneself was gained through direct experience, through the rhythms of the body, the feedback of the environment, and the reflections of the community. They knew when they were tired because their bodies ached and their eyelids drooped. They knew when they were hungry by the pangs in their stomach. Their internal states were felt, intuited, and responded to with a natural wisdom. There was no external metric, no digital dashboard to tell them how well they had slept, how many steps they had taken, or how many calories they had consumed. Their relationship with their bodies was direct, unmediated, and intuitive. Today, however, we live in the age of the quantified self. We wear devices that track our every move, our heart rate, our sleep cycles, our calorie intake, and even our stress levels. We have apps that analyze our productivity, our mood, and our social interactions. While these tools offer fascinating insights and can be beneficial for certain goals, they have also inadvertently fostered a profound disconnection from our own intuitive wisdom. Instead of feeling our fatigue, we check our sleep score. Instead of listening to our hunger cues, we count calories. Instead of trusting our body's signals for rest, we rely on data points from a wristband. This constant self-monitoring can create a new layer of anxiety, especially around sleep. If our sleep tracker tells us we had a poor night's sleep, even if we feel relatively rested, we might begin to worry, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of fatigue. The pursuit of the perfect sleep score can become another source of pressure, another metric to optimize, turning the natural act of rest into a performance to be measured and judged. Our minds, instead of simply surrendering to sleep, become preoccupied with the data, analyzing, critiquing, and striving for an ideal that an algorithm has defined. For our ancestors, sleep was a natural, unmeasured phenomenon. They didn't to wake up wondering if they had achieved enough deep sleep, or if their sleep efficiency was optimal. They woke up feeling rested or not, and responded accordingly. Their bodies were their primary source of information, and they trusted its wisdom. This intuitive relationship with their physical selves allowed for a more relaxed approach to rest, free from the external pressures of data and metrics. The sleeping pill, in this context, can become a desperate attempt to manipulate the numbers to force a good sleep score, rather than addressing the underlying disconnection from our body's innate wisdom. It is a powerful reminder that sometimes the most profound insights come not from external data, but from the quiet, unmeasured wisdom of our own being. In the ancient world, stress was episodic and acute. A sudden encounter with a predator, a natural disaster, or a conflict with a rival tribe would trigger the body's powerful fight or flight response. Adrenaline would surge, senses would sharpen, and the body would mobilize all its resources for immediate action. Once the threat passed, the body would return to a state of rest and recovery. This acute stress response was a vital survival mechanism designed for short bursts of intense activity followed by periods of calm. Their nervous systems were well practiced in both activation and deactivation, allowing for full restoration after danger had passed. Today, however, many of us live in a state of chronic low-grade stress. The threats are no longer saber-toothed tigers or invading tribes, but rather looming deadlines, financial pressures, social anxieties, constant connectivity, and the relentless pace of modern life. Our primitive brains, however, often cannot differentiate between a physical threat and a perceived psychological one. The stress of an overflowing inbox can trigger the same physiological response as being chased by a bear, albeit at a lower intensity, but sustained over much longer periods. This means our bodies are constantly producing stress hormones like cortisol, keeping our nervous systems in a perpetual state of alert. Our hearts beat a little faster, our muscles remain slightly tensed, and our minds are always scanning for the next threat. This chronic activation exhausts the body's systems, leading to inflammation, weakened immunity, and crucially, a profound inability to relax. When it's time for sleep, the body, still receiving signals of danger from the overactive mind, struggles to switch off. The very mechanisms designed to keep us safe during a crisis now prevent us from finding peace and rest. Our ancestors, while facing genuine dangers, also experienced profound periods of calm and safety. Their nervous systems had ample opportunity to return to baseline, to fully recover and restore themselves. They didn't carry the invisible burden of chronic stress into their sleep. For them, the night was a time of true cessation from threat, a period of profound safety. For us, the sleeping pill becomes a desperate attempt to chemically silence this perpetual alarm, to force a temporary truce in the body's exhausting battle against perceived threats. It is a stark reminder that until we learn to manage the chronic stress of modern life, our bodies will continue to resist the natural surrender to sleep, forever waiting for the next danger to pass. Let us return to the simple act of nourishment and how profoundly it impacts our sleep. For our ancient ancestors, eating was an act deeply intertwined with their environment and their community. Food was seasonal, often foraged or hunted, and prepared with care. Meals were likely communal events, eaten slowly, with attention paid to the sustenance it provided. Their digestive systems, unburdened by processed foods and artificial additives, functioned optimally, sending signals of contentment and satiety to the brain. There was a natural rhythm to their eating, consuming when truly hungry and resting when full, that harmonized with their overall biological clock. Today, our relationship with food is often fraught with complexity. We eat on the go, in front of screens, or under stress. Our diets are often rich in processed sugars, unhealthy fats, and artificial ingredients that can inflame our bodies and disrupt our delicate gut microbiome. The gut, often called the second brain, plays a crucial role in producing neurotransmitters like serotonin, a precursor to melatonin, the sleep hormone. When our gut is in disarray due to poor diet and stress, its ability to contribute to a calm, sleep-ready state is severely compromised. Consider the late-night snack, often a sugary or heavy indulgence, consumed out of habit or emotional need rather than true hunger. This sends our digestive system into overdrive just when it should be winding down. The body, instead of preparing for rest, is forced to labor, diverting energy to digestion and potentially causing discomfort that interferes with sleep. Similarly, excessive caffeine and alcohol, consumed throughout the day or in the evening, directly interfere with sleep architecture, preventing us from reaching the deeper, more restorative stages of sleep. The ancient people, with their simple, whole diets and their lives lived in sync with nature, experienced a different kind of digestive peace. Their bodies were nourished, not agitated by their food. Their meals were not just about physical sustenance, but also about social connection and a mindful engagement with the act of eating. This holistic approach to nourishment contributed significantly to their overall well-being, including their ability to fall into a deep, untroubled sleep. Reclaiming the mindful morsel means returning to a more conscious relationship with what and how we eat. It involves choosing whole, unprocessed foods, eating at regular times, and allowing our digestive system to complete its work well before bedtime. It means savoring our meals, paying attention to the flavors and textures, and listening to our body's signals of hunger and fullness. By nourishing our bodies with care and intention, we send signals of safety and calm to our gut and brain, creating an internal environment that is conducive to restful sleep. This gentle act of mindful eating becomes a lullaby for our digestive system, allowing our entire being to settle into the profound peace that precedes a night of deep, natural slumber. Our ancient ancestors lived lives that, by modern standards, were filled with physical discomfort and challenge. They walked vast distances, carried heavy loads, endured the elements, and often slept on hard, uneven surfaces. Their bodies were constantly adapting, constantly being pushed to their limits, and constantly recovering. This regular exposure to physical challenge and discomfort, far from being detrimental, was integral to their resilience and their overall well-being. When they finally found a moment of rest, it was a profound relief, a deep surrender to the body's earned need for repose. Their sleep was not just about mental quietude, but also about the physical exhaustion that came from a day of honest, demanding engagement with the world. Today, we have engineered much of the physical discomfort out of our lives. We live in climate-controlled homes, travel in cushioned vehicles, and work in ergonomically designed chairs. Our beds are soft, our clothes are comfortable, and our environments are meticulously curated for ease. While that pursuit of comfort is understandable, it has an unintended consequence. Our bodies are rarely challenged in the ways they were designed to be. They are not pushed to the point of true, satisfying fatigue that naturally ushers in deep sleep. Consider the subtle restlessness that can arise when a body is not adequately challenged. It's a kind of unspent energy, a primal urge for movement and exertion that, when unfulfilled, can manifest as a restless mind and body at night. Our muscles, designed for action, remain underutilized, leading to a subtle tension that prevents full relaxation. Our nervous systems, deprived of the natural cycles of exertion and recovery, can remain in a state of low-level arousal, constantly seeking an outlet for unexpended energy. The ancient people, whose lives demanded constant physical engagement, experienced a different kind of bodily wisdom. Their discomforts were often temporary and resolved by action or rest. Their bodies were strong, adaptable, and their sleep was a direct reflection of their physical expenditure. They didn't need to tire themselves out with artificial means. Their daily lives provided the necessary physical challenge that made sleep an inevitable and welcome guest. For us, the soft cage of comfort can paradoxically lead to a restless night. Our bodies, yearning for the challenges they were built for, remain subtly agitated. The sleeping pill, in this context, becomes an attempt to chemically induce the physical stillness that our unchallenged bodies refuse to grant naturally. It is a powerful invitation to reintroduce healthy physical challenge and even a degree of natural discomfort into our lives, allowing our bodies to earn their rest and guiding us back to the profound restorative sleep that comes from a life lived in full physical engagement with the world. In the ancient world, life, while often demanding, also contained vast stretches of unstructured time. Children learn through observation and imitation, their days filled with spontaneous play, exploration, and interaction with their environment. Adults, too, had periods of downtime, moments of idleness between tasks, or evenings spent in communal gathering without a rigid agenda. This unstructured time, often filled with natural play, creative expression, and simple being, was crucial for mental and emotional well-being. It allowed the mind to wander, to process experiences, to engage in imaginative thought, and to simply decompress without external pressure. Today, however, our lives, and especially the lives of our children, have become increasingly scheduled and structured. From early morning till late evening, our calendars are filled with appointments, classes, meetings, and organized activities. Every moment seems to be accounted for, every hour optimized for productivity or structured learning. The concept of free time often means time spent consuming prepackaged entertainment, rather than engaging in spontaneous, self-directed play or quiet contemplation. This constant scheduling and lack of unstructured time have profound implications for our ability to relax and sleep. Our brains are perpetually in a state of doing, constantly responding to external demands and following preset agendas. There's little opportunity for the mind to simply be, to wander freely, or to process the day's events without the pressure of the next scheduled activity. For children, this can lead to overstimulation and difficulty winding down. For adults, it means carrying the mental burden of a never-ending to-do list, even into the hours meant for rest. Natural play, for both children and adults, is a powerful antidote to stress. It allows for the release of pent-up energy, fosters creativity, and provides a sense of joy and freedom. When we are engaged in genuine play, our minds are fully immersed in the present moment, free from worries about the past or future. This state of flow is incredibly restorative and conducive to relaxation. Our ancient ancestors, whose lives were less rigidly structured, had ample opportunity for this kind of natural decompression. Their minds were not constantly racing from one scheduled event to the next, but flowed with the natural rhythms of their day, allowing for a more organic transition into rest. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to force a pause in a life that refuses to slow down, a chemical imposition of the unstructured time our minds desperately crave. It is a powerful invitation to reclaim the lost art of unstructured play, to allow ourselves moments of genuine idleness, and to create space in our lives for spontaneous joy and quiet contemplation. By doing so, we can begin to untangle the knots of a scheduled life and rediscover the natural path to peaceful, unforced sleep. In the ancient world, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the day's labors ceased, a profound ritual often began, the sharing of stories. Gathered around a flickering fire, under the vast canopy of stars, the elders would recount tales of their ancestors, of brave hunts, of the mysteries of the natural world, or perhaps the simple events of the day. These were not passive experiences. The listeners were active participants, their imaginations ignited, their emotions stirred, their minds engaged in a shared narrative. The rhythm of the storyteller's voice, the communal warmth, the absence of external distractions, all contributed to a state of relaxed attentiveness. This collective journey into the world of imagination served as a powerful mental transition, gently guiding the mind away from the day's practicalities and towards the receptive state conducive to sleep. These stories were often imbued with meaning, lessons, and a sense of belonging. They connected individuals to their past, to their community, and to the larger cosmos. They provided a framework for understanding the world and one's place within it. The act of listening, of absorbing a narrative without the need for immediate response or interaction, allowed the mind to process, to synthesize, and to ultimately quieten. It was a form of communal meditation, a shared lullaby that prepared the entire group for rest. Today, our evenings are often dominated by screens, and our narratives are largely consumed passively and individually. We binge-watch television series, scroll through endless social media feeds, or immerse ourselves in video games. While these forms of entertainment can be engaging, they often lack the communal, interactive, and deeply human element of ancient storytelling. The narratives are prepackaged, delivered at a rapid pace, and often designed to stimulate rather than soothe. The blue light from these screens, as we've discussed, actively suppresses melatonin, but the content itself also keeps our minds in a state of heightened arousal. Instead of engaging our imaginations in a shared, calming narrative, we are often bombarded with fast-paced visuals, complex plots, and emotionally charged content right up until the moment we try to sleep. Our brains, accustomed to this constant influx of high-stimulation entertainment, struggle to switch off and find their own quiet narrative. The echo chamber of our individual screens replaces the shared warmth of the communal fire, and the passive consumption of pre-made stories replaces the active engagement of imagination. For our ancestors, the shared narrative was a bridge to dreams, a gentle descent into the world of the unconscious. For us, the constant passive consumption of digital content can become a barrier, keeping our minds agitated and our imaginations unexercised. The sleeping pill, in this context, becomes a desperate attempt to force the quiet that once came naturally from the shared, soothing rhythm of a well-told tale. It is a powerful invitation to rediscover the art of shared narrative, to engage our imaginations in gentler ways, and to allow the stories we tell ourselves and each other to become the true lullabies that guide us to peaceful sleep. In the ancient world, physical pain was an undeniable reality. Injuries from hunting, labor, or conflict were common. However, the nature of their pain and their relationship with it was likely different. Acute pain, while intense, was often a clear signal of immediate danger or damage, and once the injury began to heal, the pain would subside. Chronic pain, as a pervasive, long-term condition, might have been less common in the way we experience it today, given their active lifestyles and diets. When pain did persist, their remedies were often rooted in natural herbs, communal care, and a deep understanding of the body's healing processes. Crucially, their lives were not filled with the constant, low-grade inflammatory triggers that plague modern diets and sedentary lifestyles. Today, chronic pain has become a widespread epidemic, a silent thief of sleep for millions. Whether it's persistent back pain from hours spent hunched over a computer, the dull ache of arthritis, the sharp jabs of nerve pain, or the widespread discomfort of fibromyalgia, these unceasing physical sensations make it incredibly difficult to find a comfortable position, to relax, and to drift into slumber. The body, instead of preparing for rest, remains in a state of heightened alert, constantly sending pain signals to the brain. Furthermore, the psychological burden of chronic pain is immense. The frustration, the despair, the fear that the pain will never end, these emotional states amplify the physical sensation, creating a vicious cycle that further disrupts sleep. The mind becomes hyper-focused on the pain, making it impossible to disengage and find peace. Our ancestors, while not immune to suffering, likely experience pain in a more integrated way as part of the natural cycle of life, injury, and healing. Their bodies, accustomed to physical hardship, might have possessed a different threshold or a more resilient coping mechanism. Their pain, when it came, was often a clear message, not a constant, ambiguous torment. For us, the sleeping pill often becomes a desperate attempt to numb the body, to chemically silence the persistent ache that prevents rest. It is a stark reminder that our modern lives, with their sedentary habits, inflammatory diets, and often inadequate approaches to holistic healing, have created bodies that are in constant distress. Reclaiming restful sleep in the face of chronic pain requires a multifaceted approach, addressing the root causes of the pain, cultivating gentle movement, exploring natural remedies, and learning techniques to manage the psychological impact of persistent discomfort. Only then can the body truly relax and the mind find the peace necessary to surrender to the profound healing power of sleep, a healing that no pill can truly replicate. In the ancient world, while individuals certainly faced challenges and made mistakes, the pervasive, relentless self-criticism that plagues many in modern society was likely less pronounced. Their sense of self was often deeply intertwined with their community and their direct contributions to it. Mistakes were often seen as learning opportunities, and failures were shared burdens. There was less emphasis on individual perfection and more on collective resilience. While shame and guilt existed, they were often tied to specific actions that harmed the community rather than a constant internal monologue of inadequacy. Their minds, less burdened by the relentless pursuit of an idealized self, could find peace more readily. Today, however, many of us carry an inner critic, a harsh judge that constantly evaluates our every thought, word, and action. This inner voice, often internalized from societal pressures, parental expectations, or past experiences, can be relentless. It tells us we're not smart enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough, not doing enough. It replays past mistakes, magnifies perceived flaws, and anticipates future failures. This constant negative self-talk creates a profound sense of anxiety and self-doubt, a feeling of never being quite good enough. This internal monologue of self-criticism is a powerful antagonist to restful sleep. When we lie down at night, instead of winding down, our minds often become a courtroom where we are both the accused and the prosecutor. The day's events are replayed, analyzed, and judged, often with a harshness we would never apply to a friend. This mental churning keeps our nervous system in a state of hyperarousal, making it impossible to relax and surrender to sleep. The very act of trying to sleep can become another opportunity for the inner critic to chime in. Why can't you sleep? Everyone else can. You're failing even at this. Our ancestors, whose lives were more focused on external realities and communal well-being, likely experienced less of this pervasive internal judgment. Their minds were engaged in the practicalities of survival and the bonds of community, leaving less room for the kind of abstract, self-referential criticism that consumes us. They slept with a more integrated sense of self, one that was accepted within their tribe, flaws and all. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to silence this inner critic, to chemically induce a temporary reprieve from the unforgiving mind. It is a stark reminder that true peace, and thus true sleep, often begins with cultivating self-compassion and learning to quiet the harsh internal judge. By practicing self-acceptance, by acknowledging our inherent worth beyond our achievements or perceived flaws, we can begin to create an internal environment that is conducive to rest. Only then can our minds truly disengage from the relentless pursuit of perfection and surrender to the gentle embrace of sleep, a sleep that needs no chemical intervention, only the quiet acceptance of our own imperfect yet beautiful being. For our ancient ancestors, the future, while uncertain, was often conceived in more immediate and tangible terms. They planned for the next hunt, the next harvest, the coming winter. Their anxieties were often rooted in the immediate challenges of survival, a drought, a predator, a rival tribe. While these were significant concerns, their resolution often involved direct action in the present, and the scope of their future planning was generally limited to what they could directly influence within their immediate environment. There was a profound acceptance of the unknown, a reliance on the rhythms of nature and the strength of their community to navigate what lay ahead. Their minds, while capable of foresight, were not constantly burdened by the abstract, long-term anxieties that plague us today. Today, however, our minds are often perpetually tethered to the future. We plan not just for tomorrow, but for next week, next month, next year, and even decades ahead. We worry about retirement, our children's education, climate change, global politics, and a myriad of other complex, often uncontrollable, variables. The sheer volume of potential future scenarios, both personal and global, creates a constant hum of anxiety, a feeling that we must always be prepared, always be strategizing, always be anticipating the next challenge. This relentless future orientation prevents our minds from truly resting in the present moment. Even when we are ostensibly relaxing, our thoughts often drift to what needs to be done, what might go wrong, or what opportunities we might be missing. The quiet of the night, instead of being a sanctuary for rest, becomes a fertile ground for these future-oriented worries to blossom. Our brains, designed to solve problems, become trapped in a loop of hypothetical scenarios, endlessly rehearsing potential outcomes and searching for solutions to problems that may never materialize. This constant mental projection into the future keeps our nervous systems in a state of heightened arousal, making it incredibly difficult to transition into the relaxed state necessary for sleep. The ancient people, while certainly prudent, lived more deeply in the present. Their connection to the immediate realities of their environment, their reliance on direct experience, and their acceptance of the natural flow of life allowed their minds to be more grounded. When night fell, their concerns were often those of the day just past, or the immediate needs of the morning to come, not the vast, abstract anxieties of a distant, uncertain future. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to silence this relentless future planning, to chemically impose a temporary amnesia of tomorrow's burdens. It is a poignant reminder that our modern capacity for foresight, while a testament to our intelligence, has also become a source of profound mental unrest, making the simple act of surrendering to the present moment and thus to sleep an increasingly challenging endeavor. In the ancient world, happiness was likely not a constant, high-intensity state to be relentlessly pursued, but rather a byproduct of a life lived in balance with nature and community. Joy came from simple pleasures, a successful hunt, a bountiful harvest, the warmth of a fire, the laughter of children, the solidarity of the tribe. Their sense of worth was often intrinsic, derived from their role within the community and their direct contributions to survival. While they certainly sought positive experiences, the modern imperative to be perpetually happy and to broadcast that happiness was absent. Their validation came from within their immediate circle, from the tangible results of their efforts, and from the rhythms of their existence. Today, however, we are bombarded with messages that equate happiness with a constant state of euphoria, often tied to material possessions, external achievements, or a perfectly curated lifestyle. Social media, in particular, has become a stage for the performance of happiness, where individuals present idealized versions of their lives, showcasing only the highlights. This creates an unspoken pressure to not only be happy, but to appear happy, to constantly strive for a state of bliss that is often unattainable and unsustainable. This relentless pursuit of an elusive, high-octane happiness, coupled with the constant need for external validation, likes, comments, shares, approval from others, creates a profound internal tension. Our minds are constantly evaluating whether we are happy enough, whether others perceive us as happy, and what we need to do to achieve that next fleeting moment of perceived joy. This mental churning, this constant self-assessment and external seeking is the antithesis of the calm and contentment required for restful sleep. When we lie down at night instead of finding peace, our minds often replay the day's interactions, wondering if we said the right thing, if we were liked enough, if we presented our best self. We might fret over perceived social failures or strategize how to gain more approval. This constant need for external affirmation keeps our nervous system in a state of heightened arousal, making it impossible to relax and surrender to sleep. The ancient people, whose happiness was more deeply rooted in the simple realities of their lives and the genuine connections within their community, did not carry this heavy burden of performance and external validation into their nights. Their joy was often quiet, their contentment profound, and their sense of worth inherent. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to silence this relentless pursuit, to chemically induce a temporary oblivion from the pressure to be perpetually happy and constantly validated. It is a poignant reminder that true peace, and thus true sleep, often begins not with the frantic pursuit of external happiness, but with the cultivation of inner contentment, a quiet acceptance of ourselves, and a gentle detachment from the need for constant external approval. Only then can our minds truly disengage from the performance of life and surrender to the profound, unearned gift of rest. In the ancient world, death was an ever-present reality woven into the fabric of life. While undoubtedly painful, Communities often had established rituals and traditions for processing grief. Death was not hidden away. It was a communal event, a natural transition. The grieving process, though arduous, was often supported by the entire tribe, allowing for a more complete and integrated experience of loss. There were specific ceremonies, periods of mourning, and communal acts of remembrance that helped individuals and the collective to acknowledge, express, and eventually move through their sorrow. This allowed for a more natural emotional processing, preventing grief from becoming stagnant, haunting presence that disrupted the natural rhythms of life, including sleep. Today, however, our relationship with death and grief has become far more complex and often more isolating. Death is frequently medicalized, occurring in sterile environments, and often hidden from public view. Our fast-paced society often offers little space or time for the deep, prolonged process of mourning. We are expected to get over it quickly, to return to productivity, and to suppress our sorrow. The rituals that once provided a framework for grief have often been diluted or lost, leaving individuals feeling adrift and unsupported in their pain. This unprocessed grief, this accumulation of unexpressed sorrow and unresolved emotional pain, can become a profound disruptor of sleep. When we lie down at night, the quiet of the bedroom can become an echo chamber for our unspoken sadness, our unwept tears, and our lingering regrets. The mind, instead of finding peace, becomes a battleground where the emotions we have suppressed during the day demand attention. Nightmares, restless sleep, or an inability to fall asleep at all can be the body's way of crying out for the emotional processing that has been denied during waking hours. Our ancestors, by contrast, had a more direct and communal relationship with the cycles of life and death. Their grief, while intense, was often shared and acknowledged, allowing for a more natural flow of emotion. They didn't carry the same burden of unexpressed sorrow into their nights, because their communities provided the necessary containers for their pain. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to numb this emotional pain, to chemically induce an oblivion from the haunting presence of unprocessed grief. It is a poignant reminder that true rest requires not just physical and mental calm, but also emotional integration, a willingness to acknowledge and process our sorrows, allowing our hearts to find peace so that our minds can finally surrender to the healing balm of sleep. In the ancient world, news traveled at the speed of a runner, a writer, or a whispered word. Information was localized, immediate, and often directly relevant to one's survival or community. While dangers were real and present, the constant, globalized bombardment of alarming information was entirely absent. Their minds were not perpetually scanning for distant threats, nor were they subjected to a continuous stream of crises from across the known world. When a threat emerged, it was often tangible, and once addressed, the mind could return to a state of relative calm. Their nervous systems were designed to respond to acute, not chronic, alarms. Today, however, we live in an age of instant 24/7 news cycles. Every disaster, every conflict, every political upheaval, every economic downturn, every health scare from every corner of the globe is beamed directly into our homes and onto our devices, often with sensationalized headlines and dramatic visuals. While staying informed is a civic responsibility, the sheer volume and constant negativity of this information can be overwhelming. We are constantly exposed to stories of suffering, injustice, and impending doom, often with little agency to directly impact the outcomes. This constant exposure to alarming news creates a state of chronic anxiety and hypervigilance. Our brains, still wired for survival, interpret these distant crises as potential threats, keeping our nervous systems in a perpetual state of low-grade alarm. We worry about things we cannot control, fret over events far removed from our daily lives, and carry the weight of global suffering on our shoulders. This mental burden, this constant echo of alarms, makes it incredibly difficult for the mind to quieten and find peace at night. When we lie down to sleep, instead of finding solace, our minds often replay the day's headlines, imagining worst-case scenarios or feeling a pervasive sense of helplessness. The very act of trying to disengage from the world feels irresponsible, yet engaging with it constantly leaves us exhausted and anxious. Our ancestors, while facing their own very real dangers, were spared this abstract, globalized fear. Their minds were focused on the immediate, and their anxieties were often resolved by direct action or the passage of time. They slept with a more localized sense of security, unburdened by the world's distant woes. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to mute this constant alarm, to chemically induce a temporary oblivion from the fear-fueled mind. It is a poignant reminder that while awareness is important, discerning what information to consume and when is crucial for our mental well-being and our ability to rest. Only by consciously creating boundaries around our consumption of alarming news can we begin to quiet the echo of alarms and allow our minds to find the peace necessary for a sleep that needs no chemical intervention, only the gentle embrace of a mind unburdened by the world's endless anxieties. For our ancient ancestors, the future, while uncertain, was often conceived in more immediate and tangible terms. They planned for the next hunt, the next harvest, the coming winter. Their anxieties were often rooted in the immediate challenges of survival: a drought, a predator, a rival tribe. While these were significant concerns, their resolution often involved direct action in the present, and the scope of their future planning was generally limited to what they could directly influence within their immediate environment. There was a profound acceptance of the unknown, a reliance on the rhythms of nature and the strength of their community to navigate what lay ahead. Their minds, while capable of foresight, were not constantly burdened by the abstract, long-term anxieties that plague us today. Today, however, our minds are often perpetually tethered to the future. We plan not just for tomorrow, but for next week, next month, next year, and even decades ahead. We worry about retirement, our children's education, climate change, global politics, and a myriad of other complex, often uncontrollable, variables. The sheer volume of potential future scenarios, both personal and global, creates a constant hum of anxiety, a feeling that we must always be prepared, always be strategizing, always be anticipating the next challenge. This relentless future orientation prevents our minds from truly resting in the present moment. Even when we are ostensibly relaxing, our thoughts often drift to what needs to be done, what might go wrong, or what opportunities we might be missing. The quiet of the night, instead of being a sanctuary for rest, becomes a fertile ground for these future-oriented worries to blossom. Our brains, designed to solve problems, become trapped in a loop of hypothetical scenarios, endlessly rehearsing potential outcomes and searching for solutions to problems that may never materialize. This constant mental projection into the future keeps our nervous systems in a state of heightened arousal, making it incredibly difficult to transition into the relaxed state necessary for sleep. The ancient people, while certainly prudent, lived more deeply in the present. Their connection to the immediate realities of their environment, their reliance on direct experience, and their acceptance of the natural flow of life allowed their minds to be more grounded. When night fell, their concerns were often those of the day just past, or the immediate needs of the morning to come, not the vast, abstract anxieties of a distant, uncertain future. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to silence this relentless future planning, to chemically impose a temporary amnesia of tomorrow's burdens. It is a poignant reminder that our modern capacity for foresight, while a testament to our intelligence, has also become a source of profound mental unrest, making the simple act of surrendering to the present moment, and thus to sleep, an increasingly challenging endeavor. Our ancient ancestors lived in profound intimacy with the changing seasons. Their lives were dictated by the natural cycles of the earth, the long, active days of summer, the harvest time of autumn, the quiet introspection of winter, and the renewal of spring. Their bodies and minds were attuned to these rhythms, naturally adjusting their energy levels, their sleep patterns, and their activities to match the earth's cycles. In winter, they would sleep longer, conserve energy, and engage in more contemplative activities. In summer, they would be more active, sleep less, and take advantage of the abundant daylight. This seasonal attunement provided a natural framework for rest and activity, a biological rhythm that was in harmony with the world around them. Today, however, many of us live in artificial environments that are largely disconnected from these natural cycles. Our homes and workplaces are climate controlled, maintaining a constant temperature regardless of the season. Our lighting is artificial, providing the same intensity year-round. Our food comes from global supply chains, offering the same fruits and vegetables in winter as in summer. Our work schedules remain constant, demanding the same level of productivity and alertness, regardless of whether it is the energizing days of spring or the contemplative depths of winter. We have, in essence, created a perpetual artificial summer, a constant state of activity and stimulation that ignores the natural ebb and flow of the Earth's rhythms. This disconnection from seasonal cycles has profound implications for our sleep. Our bodies are still wired for these ancient rhythms, but our modern lives provide no opportunity to honor them. We expect ourselves to maintain the same level of energy and productivity in the dark depths of winter as in the bright days of summer. We resist the natural urge to slow down, to rest more, to turn inward during the colder months. This creates a constant internal tension, a battle between our biological needs and our societal expectations. Furthermore, the lack of exposure to natural light cycles, especially during winter months, can lead to seasonal affective disorder, SAD, and other mood disturbances that directly impact sleep. Our circadian rhythms, designed to respond to the changing patterns of daylight, become confused and dysregulated when exposed to constant artificial light. The ancient people, living in harmony with the seasons, experienced a natural variation in their sleep patterns, their energy levels, and their emotional states. They didn't fight against winter's call for rest. They embraced it, allowing their bodies and minds to recover and prepare for the renewal of spring. For us, the sleeping pill can become a desperate attempt to force the body into a state of rest that are artificial. Seasonally disconnected lives have made difficult to achieve naturally. It is a powerful invitation to reconnect with the natural rhythms of the earth, to honor the changing seasons in our own lives, and to allow our bodies to follow the ancient wisdom of rest and renewal that has guided life on this planet for millennia. Only by acknowledging and embracing these natural cycles can we begin to find the deep, restorative sleep that comes from living in harmony with the world around us. And so, dear listener, we come to the end of our journey through time, from the peaceful slumber of our ancient ancestors to the restless nights of our modern age. We have explored the myriad ways in which our contemporary lives have conspired against the natural rhythms of rest, creating a world where sleep has become elusive and the sleeping pill a desperate refuge. But this story does not end in despair, for within each challenge lies the seed of its own solution, and within you lies the ancient wisdom that once guided humanity to peaceful, restorative sleep. The path back to natural sleep is not a single road, but a gentle convergence of many small streams, each contributing to the river of rest. It begins with the simple recognition that you are not broken, that your sleeplessness is not a personal failing, but a natural response to an unnatural world. Your body remembers how to sleep. It yearns for the deep, healing rest that is your birthright. The challenge is not to force sleep, but to remove the barriers that prevent it from flowing naturally. Start with the light. As evening approaches, dim the artificial suns that flood your home. Put away the glowing screens that trick your brain into believing it's still day. Create a sanctuary of darkness, a cave of rest where your ancient circadian rhythms can remember their purpose. Let the natural progression from light to dark guide your body's preparation for sleep, just as it guided your ancestors for countless generations. Embrace the breath, that ancient anchor to calm that has always been within you. In moments of restlessness, return to the simple rhythm of inhale and exhale, allowing each breath to carry away the tensions of the day. Let your breath be your lullaby, a gentle rhythm that soothes your nervous system and prepares your body for rest. Reclaim the present moment. When your mind races with the worries of tomorrow or the regrets of yesterday, gently guide it back to the here and now. Feel the weight of your body against the mattress, the softness of your pillow, the warmth of your blankets. Let the present moment be your refuge, a place where sleep can find you. Move your body as it was meant to be moved. Walk in the fresh air, stretch your muscles, engage in the kind of physical activity that creates the satisfying fatigue that naturally leads to rest. Your ancestors' bodies were tired in a good way at the end of each day. Yours can be too. Nourish yourself with intention. Choose foods that support your body's natural rhythms, eat at regular times, and allow your digestive system to complete its work well before bedtime. Let your evening meal be a gentle conclusion to the day's nourishment, not a burden that keeps your body working when it should be resting. Create rituals of transition. Just as your ancestors had natural cues that signaled the end of the day, create your own gentle rituals that prepare your mind and body for sleep. Perhaps a warm bath, a cup of herbal tea, a few moments of quiet reflection, or the simple act of gratitude for the day's blessings. Let these rituals become your bridge from the active day to the restful night. Cultivate community and connection. Reach out to loved ones, share your burdens, and allow yourself to be supported. The isolation that plagues modern life is not your natural state. You are meant to be part of a caring community. Let the warmth of human connection soothe your restless spirit. Most importantly, be patient with yourself. The journey back to natural sleep is not a race, but a gentle return to your own innate wisdom. There will be nights when sleep comes easily, and others when it remains elusive. This is natural, part of the ebb and flow of life. Do not judge yourself harshly. Instead, approach each night with curiosity and compassion, trusting that your body knows how to rest. The sleeping pill, while sometimes necessary, is not your destiny. It is a temporary bridge, a chemical crutch that can support you while you rebuild your natural capacity for rest. But the true solution lies not in a bottle, but in the gentle return to the rhythms and wisdom that once guided humanity to peaceful sleep. As I conclude this tale, I offer you this promise. Within you lies the capacity for the deepest, most restorative sleep you have ever known. It is not a distant dream, but a present possibility, waiting to be awakened by your gentle attention and care. The ancient wisdom whispers still, if only you choose to listen. Let this story be your guide, your companion on the journey back to the land of dreams where sleep comes not as a conquered prize, but as a welcomed friend, embracing you in its gentle arms and carrying you to the profound rest that is your birthright. Sleep well, dear friend. The night is yours, and in its quiet embrace, you will find the peace that has always been within you, waiting patiently for your return.